Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Ashura Michael. I work with IDA, International Disability Alliance. The panel next will focus on Article 24 of the UNCRPD, political participation of persons with disability in public life. For a long time, persons with disability, especially youth, have never participated in their political life. But this time we have so many young people who are coming up to participate in politics, especially in African countries. We have the panelists who talk about their experience in participation in political life. We have Dr. Shide Oluje.
I will read it short.
I'll give you a short profile of the panelists.
Dr. Shide
Oluje is a person with disability. He is a human rights activist, a philanthropist, and political aspirant with a rich background as an educator for special needs learners with disabilities. Currently, he's the director for National Association of the Deaf in Nigeria. We have an amazing, beautiful lady, Valerie Azul. He is a person with vigilante. He's the founder of Agriculture Economic Entrepreneur and Disability Rights Advocate. The founder of Gifted Hands Agro Processing and agribusiness. He has a degree in economic and social economics from the University of Mandela Washington Fellow. Our next panel, our other panelist is Saad Yusuf from Somali. He's the advisor for Minister. Said Yusuf is a young person with physical impairment from Somali. He is one of the African youth with disability beneficiaries of Mwalimu Nyerere African Union Scholarship grants in 2015. Recently, he was nominated as a special director for persons with disability under the Minister of Employment in Somaliland. Then we have our beautiful lady from South Africa region, Blessing Mwalanda. He's a blind person. She has a degree from University of Malawi. The four panelists will give us their experiences based on their political participation. Then we'll give an opportunity to one amazing panelist from Somaliland. Could you kindly tell us what's your own experience in political participation in your country? We understand that recently you are nominated to represent as a director of a special program under the Ministry of Employment. But in general, could you kindly let us know about your experience in political participation? Thank you. Saad Yusuf, are you with us?
Hello?
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 Yes.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's okay. So, yeah, it's my pleasure to participate this great event today. I'm Said Yusuf, as you have already expressed me. And in Somaliland, I'm a young person with disability, and I have a master's in human rights, as you have already told to the group. And for me, in Somaliland, people with disability are estimated 15% of the Somaliland population. As we're referring the global disability estimation according to the WHO report, WHO and World Bank report 2011. But we believe they are more than 15% due to the civil war, due to the prolonged civil wars. Therefore, people with disability were violated their rights, both civil and political rights, economic, social, and cultural rights, and other developmental rights. Also, people with disability meet different barriers, such as social barriers, which for example, people with disability, the society believes that people with disability cannot participate or take part the development issues of their society in different ways, such as they believe only persons with disability to provide charity. They believe charity model. Also, there is environmental barrier, which, for example, the buildings are not accessible, either the schools, the mosques, the churches, and also the different buildings are not accessible, both public and private sectors. On the other hand, people with disability also meet institutional barrier. Mostly the laws and the policies are directly and indirectly discriminated for persons with disability. For example, when we are just talking about the political participation, the election bylaws are directly discriminated for persons with disability. Also, the Constitution is not addressing or not protecting the rights of persons with disability. So, all this issue resulted that persons with disability to become most marginalized people in the society, both economically, socially, and politically. And if I repeat to my topic, persons with disability, it's difficult to vote and to be elected because the law or the election laws are not favoring for persons with disability. For example, in polling stations are not accessible. Also, the electoral commission or the team with those who working for the electoral election commission in the polling stations does not have a knowledge for persons with disability. For example, the people with the blind people, the people with a visual impairment does not get any braille for the braille due to the many reasons. The polling papers are not included in braille. Also, they did not get the informations of the elections. On the other hand, it's difficult to say people with disability or to address their problems due to the many reasons. There is no census for persons with disability, and also they have barriers, either social, environmental, and institutional. Therefore, for me, I was working for the last 7 years for disability issue. As I have advocated their rights, I have achieved to establish the first disability department for the Ministry of Employment, Social Affairs and Family. And I become the first director of disability department. On the other hand, I became the technical advisor for Disability Act drafting. Now I'm working as a technical advisor for Disability Act drafting and National Disability Policy updating. And we hope when we finish this act, and to submit to the parliament and to the parliament and to ratify and the parliament to sign the act. I hope the rights of persons with disability will be protected, because even the act, the title of the act or the title of the bill is Disability Rights Protection Act. So we have the people with disability have different problems, just they need to to accomplish this law. After this law to accomplish or to finish, the rights of persons with disability will be protected. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your experience. And this was very wonderful about the challenges, starting from accessibility. This means if we can access every place in the society, then as persons with disability, we are going to develop. From what you've said, from the challenges that you've listed, in your own experiences, would you kindly let us know how Africa and different countries perform in elections? Could you tell us, compared to person without disability, what do you think person with disabilities and non-person with disabilities, do they participate fully in politics? This is to Valerie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. So actually, looking at a person with disability myself compared to someone who is an able person having to participate in politics, you mostly realize that there is this level of discrimination when it comes to someone with a disability having to stand for such a position. It's more centered around the capabilities of the person rather than what you can give with your potentials. So when you go out for campaigns, for instance, the questions borders on how can you do this? You are visually impaired. How will you be able to move around? So instead of actually addressing what you can do with your competencies or your qualifications, what development can you bring to your community, it rather tends to asking you what you can do because of your disability, unfortunately. And so there is that comparison always. We don't have a level playing ground to be asked the same questions. And then I get to say what I can bring on board with my competence. Then again, there is this access to places of voting. So typically in our regions, it's characterized by this long queue to vote. So when you walk in as a person with disability, you have to ask for that privilege to be allowed in to vote. Sometimes it gets so disappointing that you have to get there and start explaining yourself. I am an amputee. When I go there, my mobility is a bit better. So when I get there and I ask for that permission, then there is this step from head to toe first to assess you. So there is this physical assessment of you asking to be given that privilege to go in and then vote. And it cuts across all types of persons with disability. And then there is this thing about the equal distribution of resources. So an able person is being projected by the political party, has the resources, is being promoted. Politics or politicians are mostly supported and sponsored. But if you come in as a person with disability, and a youth for that matter, you do not have such sponsors. So even on the same political platform, with your able persons, you have been discriminated against because you come in limping, you cannot see, you cannot hear, and so resources are not provided for you. And it's kind of like, it killing people's interests, especially for the youth who are solution barriers on the continent to advance in participating in politics. You don't get the right resources. And when those in active partisan politics, we keep telling you this all the time, I was discriminated. I couldn't go through the primaries because of my disabilities. I was not given the platforms. If you have a number of times to appear and campaign, you are not being allowed to go out there and then stand there. And the political parties wouldn't even appoint you because there is this stigma thing going on all around us. So I wouldn't want to project a disabled person to represent my political party, because I know at the end of the day, the person is not going to be voted for, is going to be discriminated against. Unfortunately, that is what seems to be happening around the continent that we find ourselves. And this shouldn't be so, should be addressed and make sure that there is inclusion in whatever that we do, even on the political space. When you start making those discriminations, if the person is not that too strong, then the person tends to draw back. That is why we have lesser percentage of persons with disability getting involved in the political space, even though we have all the brilliant ideas, the development solutions for our communities, and all of that. If this is being addressed, we will go a long way to also participate as a youth and a person with disability when it comes to politics. And so that is what I can share for now. Thank you.
I'll move to Blessing. Sorry.
Okay. Now, Blessing.
Blessing.
Thank you very much.
As Valerie said, youth with disabilities are oppressed, and many times they don't participate in their political field. Actually, this is a major challenge for most of us. We face the negative attitude, we have barriers that hinder us to freely participate in our political life. Blessing, could you kindly elaborate? Because we know youth are marginalized 3 times. There's accessibility, no resources, there's negative attitude. As a person with disability yourself, do you think youth with disabilities participate on a political, maybe on appointive and elective position? What unique value do you have in your country or globally?
Currently muted. Alt plus a button. Mute. Current video now started alert. Video now stopped alert.
Blessing, welcome.
So yes, a person or a young person with a disability can contribute a lot towards political issues, whether being elected as an official or being working in an election, or else being as a government official. So a person with disability, particularly a young person, can make sure that the government is making laws and decisions that are good for people with disabilities, and that those laws are really fairly and treating each other equal, regardless of being a disability or not. So the other thing is that a young person with disability can also make sure that the election itself is very accessible to all
Dragona Josic has joined the meeting.
to all people, particularly with those with disabilities, by making sure that the the information is quietly, the information about maybe the voting itself, or the materials to be used in the voting processes are all understood by everyone, and also can help the government
From
to
Chori
put
Fleury to
measures
Escape.
to help in making sure that those hard to reach polling stations are well managed for those persons with disabilities who cannot be able like to go there and do the
From
voting
Chori
itself.
Fleury to everyone. Escape.
And the other thing is that we as young people with disabilities, we can also feed in the information to the government about different issues in as far as the election is concerned. For instance, we can try our best like to check the number of persons with disabilities who are participating in the political election. Maybe those who are standing as candidates, or maybe those who are just doing the participation as voters. So we can feed the government or those people who are in authorities to help with good things that can make the persons with disabilities to vote and to participate the whole processes without any problem. And on the same, we can also make sure that the election is supported with different things which a person with disability can need. For instance, now
from Valeria at Zasha to
there are different new technologies that people are using.
Selena ST back has
now like in Malawi, we do have the tactiles. So this is also a new technology that we are using. So
Selena ST back
if we can be participating in authorities, we can be able to feed the government with the kind of new technologies which are good for everyone, including those with the disabilities. And then the other thing is that we can also help our movements, especially on this one, I'll talk about ladies, women. So the women movement, we can also help in as to advocate on the rights of women with disabilities. We all know for sure that most of the women movements do really talk about themselves. They forget to talk about us, like to tackle issues pertaining the women with disabilities. So mostly, like here in Malawi, we do have the parliamentary committee, but this is basically on women only, and they have the caucus, but there isn't even a single woman with disabilities, which means if myself, I can be talking about the issues to do with women, I'll include women with disabilities and women without disabilities. But if for those ones wants to talk about the participation of ladies or women into politics, they'll just focus on themselves, forgetting to talk about us, women with disabilities. So really, in as much as we are trying to make sure that we are living in an inclusive society, we also have to know that we as young people, we do have a lot to contribute to our country by just focusing on what I try to present here or adding anything. Thank you.
Wow, That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm impressed. I hope all who are participating kindly make sure you go on social media and tag our partners, the government of Norway, the government of Ghana, tag everyone, tag your friends, tag them along as we go on. Thank you so much. Blessing for your very elaborate speech. Nothing about us without us. When youth with disabilities participate in their interests, the stories can be listened to and can be discussed. This is a very wonderful point. Blessing. Now let's move to Dr. Shidi. From all the three speakers that we've had, from Valerie, Yusuf, Blessing, they've given us the limelight. There's a lack of resources. We don't participate in political life. Talking about nothing about us without us. From your experience participating in politics in Nigeria, and I'm sure you have an interest, you're an aspirant, you want to campaign for a member of parliament in Nigeria. As we develop in Africa, making sure that youth with disability participate in elections, elective and appointive positions. Could you kindly tell us what can our governments and private sector do to make sure that as we go on to have elections, youth with disability can fully participate without any barrier? Welcome, Shidi.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you all. About youth with disabilities, how they could be involved in policy making or in politics. Governments need to make sure that legislation and policies are in place to help young people with disabilities to get involved in politics. Nothing about us without us. So, if governments could prepare legislation that enables youth with disabilities to get involved in politics, to help young people with disabilities to get involved, to change the system from within, and it would encourage young people with disabilities to get involved in politics. And not just that, government also must have the, let's say, the heart to encourage disabled people to get involved in politics in general, not just on disability policies, but in general politics. Disabled people should be enabled to apply for any position in politics, and that will make societies more inclusive. When young people with disabilities see other people with disabilities in politics, that will motivate them to become involved themselves and not feel excluded, not feel that they're stuck in their little bubbles. So governments can help with legislation, policies, and a real desire to encourage disabled people. Myself, I have ran for a political position in Nigeria, and what motivated me was an encouraging government policy. So I felt encouraged, I felt supported, and like you, our moderator, seeing people like you in position will encourage young people with disabilities to get involved. So I call on all governments to really be welcoming to youth with disabilities, be they blind, deaf, or with other impairments, to get involved politically. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shidi. That was wonderful. As you say, the government should make sure we have a regulation policy and also try to encourage youth to interest But I think as youth with disabilities, as Dr. Shidi said, and I know you're an aspiring candidate, we should encourage youth with disability to join different political parties. Now, as we are coming to the end, I would like to ask each one of our panelists, what should the youth with disability do for themselves? We spoke about lack of resources, lack of policies, accessibility issues. We talk about so many things. As youth with disability, what are we supposed to do to make sure that we fully participate in political life? So 1 minute each as we wind up. Thank you. Dr. Shidi, would start.
Also, youth with disability, we should have the courage to get involved. Yes, governments can make legislation, but if youth with disabilities do not have the confidence, do not have the courage, do not have employment, without role models, it will be very hard to get involved. We need young people with disabilities to have the confidence and see role models, and governments to be supportive. Once legislation is in place, then it's our turn as young people with disabilities to have the courage to stand up and show us what it is we want. That we want to become involved in politics. What do we want to see in terms of political change? And we will get support also. We should not just be passive till we are pulled into a job. We also need to stand up for ourselves, and you'll get the support. We will get the support we need. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shidi. What is your last word for youth with disability in political life? Yusuf, please. 1 minute. The last word, just 1 minute each. Yusuf, are you there?
For me, just for my last word, it's okay. For me, I'm here. In there, people, youth with disability, just they need to advocate and campaign their rights to participate in political parties and also in decision making, so as to be elected in the grassroots. First, just it needs to start the parties, political parties. Also, they need bylaws and policies which is giving favor to participate in the politics. Also, African governments, they should have to implement the International Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability. So, also, just they need to raise public awareness raising, because we need to change the attitude of the people or of the population, so as to encourage and to give a chance for the youth with disability to participate in the politics. On the other hand, youth with disability needs to allocate resources so as to be elected, so as to be voted in the polling stations and to be elected as officials. So just it needs also the youth with disability organizations need to provide capacity buildings so as to organize and to mobilize for the youth with disability so as to participate in the politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hello?
That was wonderful. We really need capacity build. That is a very important point. The government should make sure they include youth with disabilities. Now, Valerie, what is your thought about youth participation? What should we do to make sure that we fully participate in politics?
So what I would say is this, we need to get active into active politics. We need to be there when there is that call. We need to show up and tell the able people that this is who we are, this is what we can do, and then this is how our competences. We need to be out there. Even though we want to be appointed into this political positions, we need to show our merits, that we are worth it, and we need to show up there ourselves. Then another thing, again, that I would say to our government and then our electoral commissions and all the organizations in charge of elections in our various countries is that some of the reasons why we do not participate is because of the huge filing fees. As a person with disability, we are already struggling with jobs. We are struggling with so many opportunities. How do I file for such a position that requires such a huge amount of money? So it is not encouraging enough for us to go in and then appear there. Then again, we need to be involved in our community that we stay in. When they call for town hall meetings, that is where issues pertaining to the community development are being discussed. When we do not show up there, they will take decisions on our behalf without us. So when we talk about accessibility and the person is there without any knowledge about that, and then I'm at home and I do not appear on that day, definitely decisions will be taken without me. And then I'll just sit back at home and keep complaining. We have complained enough. We have tried to blame people enough. We need to take it up ourselves. We need to show ourselves in active politics. That is the only way that we would be recognized. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Valeria. That is a very important point for us. How youth with disability, we need to get the interest to participate. But the question is, actually, we need a lot of resources. So what are we going to do to make sure that the resources are available all the way for youth with disability to participate in politics? For each person has to take this question, and then you can get responses on social media. You can tag us at IDA, Mental Health, Atlas Africa, Atlas Alliance, tag all our partners and friends. Now, Blessing, as we come to the end, we've heard what other panelists have said, talking about capacity building, accessibility.
Video now stop.
We have many points. So what do you think we should do if you pick what Valeria has said? You have the interest to participate in politics, but the only challenge is the money involved. So it demands a lot of resources, which we don't have as youth with disabilities. So what's your thinking? What can it be possible? What can be made possible so that youth with disabilities can participate in politics? Kindly. Blessing.
If a person with disabilities approach them to help him or her on if maybe that person wants to stand as a candidate, they have to support that person as the way they do with others without disabilities. So it's really hard for people to understand us, but it starts with us. So if we approach those ones and they kind of like helping us with financially, let's utilize that opportunity. And we're going to see that indeed disability want to be inability. And also I can give you an example. When I was at university, I stood as a director of special needs. So as a lady and plus disability, people were trying like to push me down, saying you cannot compete with these ones. They are able, they are men, they have money, but you are disabled. How can you reach that place like to do the campaign and the like? But I just told myself that I'll make it, I'll manage this, and I'll win. So the fortunate part is that I won that election with 55%. So it's really possible, and I did a lot to my fellow
From
friends
LaToya Smith to everyone.
who were
Let's
at
keep-
that time in school. So it's really possible for us. If you don't have money, if we are unable to access some other things, let's approach people to help us. Thank you.
Wow, that is wonderful. Thank you so much, Blessing. This was amazing from all the panelists, from Dr. Shidi, Valeria, Blessing, and Saad Yusuf. Thank you very much for your amazing points. I'm sure the world leaders are listening to us and will have a strong capacity building when you have enough resources for the youth with disability to participate. We need to have policies and regulations put in place to be fully involved. Nothing about us without us. Thank you for the strong and bold statement for youth with disability. If you have more comments, suggestions, feel free to post on our social media. I hope that Dr. Chidi, Valerie, Blessing, and Saad will be able to answer your questions. And also we at the IDA team will be able to respond. Because of time, I wish we had more time for question and answer. But we'll post all this on social media and we'll get our response. So we'll follow the questions as panelists and then respond. Thank you very much. And now we're going for a short break. We listen to some short, nice music about never give up. This music was presented by one of us. Now, I will ask the control team to kindly put on the music. That was amazing panel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. After the break, we're going to climate change. Thank you so much.